Hey everyone, hope you're having a great week. I know I caught a bug earlier this week, so hopefully I don't sniffle too much while I'm getting this video put together for each of you, but assuming I'll be well by Sunday and we'll get this thing rolling. First of all, if you haven't already, make sure to check out the document that's attached to this email. It will walk you through Sunday and Sunday schedule along with all the helps and hints and all the things that will really help you out as a group leader. As always, if you have questions about anything or you're uncertain of how it works, please contact Kisa or I as soon as you can, as we would really like to answer those and make sure that you feel comfortable with what you're doing and that you understand everything. We highly encourage that you make sure you check out the website as well so you know what the kids are learning. As far as the video today, we're going to cover two things to help you out as leaders. One is our discipline and how I expect discipline to happen with our groups. And then the second is just to help you get some ideas of how to get group discussion flowing. So first of all is discipline, and I want to give you a heads up and say before anything else on how we do discipline or what we do for discipline, know that I trust you, that I look to you as adults and as parents to have that wisdom and knowledge how to address a kid. So please don't feel hesitant or feel like you're held back by uncertainty about what you can say or can do. The biggest challenge for you, several of you, especially since you're parents of your children, is to not parent your particular child while you are there. As much as you see them doing things or want to step in, please respect the fact that they're letting you be their part of that ministry and what they're doing, and wait till you get home to parent them. Don't parent them in front of their kids. When you're with us, you're a leader to all of our students, and they look to you as an adult to guide them and to discipline them and to give them direction. So first step is don't parent your particular child till after the fact. And from there we get to being adults. So discipline is pretty straightforward with me. If it's a situation where a kid's just kind of getting out of hand, the biggest thing that we can do to prevent any kind of discipline is by being there, is having our eyes on and our ears on and our hearts on to what our kids are doing. If we're off in La La Land and we're talking to other adults around us, or we're just sitting looking at our clipboards because we didn't prepare a lesson, we don't have our eyes and our ears where they need to be. And a lot of times kids get into trouble, as you know, when we're not paying attention, when we aren't giving them our eyes on, ears on, hearts on attention to make sure that they're growing and doing what they need to. So make sure that you're giving preventative measures, like if we're going to go upstairs to be quiet, remind them that's the atmosphere we're supposed to be having. Sit among your kids, model the behavior you're wanting. As you go into group times, you can pave the way by saying, this is what I expect, or this is the attitude that I need for you guys to have. That goes a long, long way in making sure that the group gets where they need to go. It's a lot easier to curb a little bit of getting off track as long as you've told them where to go than not telling them, and then you have just a bouncy ball filled room of hyper kids that you're trying to calm down. So tell them what you want ahead of time by saying, this is a quiet time, or this is a time for you to enjoy with your friends, or let's focus on not getting off on rabbit trails, or let's make sure we're listening and not interrupting. By setting them up for success, our kids do a lot better and we don't have as many discipline issues. If perchance though you got a kid who had a rough weekend, or they're just, something off that night, the first thing I like to do with our kids is make sure you just address them. Come in and give them a chance to write the situation themselves. So you might say something like, hey, is everything going on okay? Or I noticed that you're behaving as such and such, or I noticed that you're talking while we're worshiping. What are we supposed to be doing right now? Most of our kids know what they're supposed to be doing, and so they'll tell you, and you say, okay, well, that's what I expect of you. So what should you be doing right now? What are you doing that no one else is doing? If they're interrupting or talking when they shouldn't, or what did we say was the expectation? Always putting it back on their plate for the kid to take the responsibility for their own actions. That's the first step. If you're having trouble with a particular kid, you're trying to be nice about giving them a chance to write the behavior themselves, and you're just not seeing it. The second maneuver I like to try is just asking the kid to come aside with you quietly. So please don't go to a private place, because that's not safe and that doesn't make our kids feel safe. Always have a third person around or be in a public area. But just pull the kid quietly to the side and just say, hey, I asked you about this behavior and you seem to understand what you're supposed to be doing. Or maybe they don't, which is why you pulled them aside. and ask them, what's going on? Why are they acting the way that they're acting? And give them a chance to explain maybe where they were coming from. Most of our kids will say, I don't know, because they really don't know. They're just acting and reacting to their circumstances in their junior high, and they don't know why they're doing it, which is why we want to give them that opportunity. So if we have the possibility or opportunity to listen first, ask why they did something, help them think through their own processes, that's what we want to do, because that always in the end usually corrects the problem faster than us just saying you need to be listening, or you weren't listening, or you were being rude. We want our kids to make that connection themselves, for themselves to be able to say, oh, I see, I was being rude. So take them to the side, ask them if they understand what was going on, and ask them if what they think is a more respectful or a more appropriate response. Again, always just asking questions. What was going on? What are you expected to be doing? What do you think you should be doing differently? Do you think that that was a very kind way to have handled that? Do you think you're being very respectful to the leaders in your group? Always putting it on them to come up with the answers, and on them to respond and say what they need to do differently. They'll shy away from that a bit because, let's face it, none of us want to have to take responsibility when we're being dumb. But that's the best way we handle discipline. So that's how we handle discipline. If you've got a major issue going on in your group, something that is just extreme, please come find me and I'll walk you through it. As we go through this year, I'll walk you through maybe more extreme cases of how we work with groups to make sure that discipline is happening. Okay, grab my Kleenex because my nose is running. Okay, so the second thing we're going to be talking about real quick is discussion in groups. If you read through the sheet that I gave you and put in your email, you'll have seen at the bottom that I really encourage you guys not to get wrapped up in the question and answer format or the feeling that you have to be a teacher who has all the answers. One of the beautiful things about group dynamics is that we can encourage the kids themselves to come up with answers and to problem solve and to take responsibility for the questions they have, while you and I as adults who have wisdom and a little bit more maturity can guide how that happens and really curb any negative responses and make sure that the conversation flows appropriately. So with that, I want to give you guys just a deep breath of freedom. When you get questions and discussion questions from me, they are not a checklist that you have to get all the way through before the night is over. They are a guide to helping you get discussion going within your group. If you simply are sitting there reading questions and you're just getting like one-word answers and the conversation looks a little bit like to that kid back to you, to that kid back to you, to this kid back to you, that's not a good discussion. That's kind of question answer. So what you really want to do is to think of questions that begin to get kids talking among themselves. My discussion questions are simply that. They are just mine and the way that I would probably lead in the discussion. So if you're reading the material or you are looking at the kids' homework and you have something that you really feel works, then you lead the discussion however you feel best. The main point is just that we get discussion going and we allow our kids to begin to take ownership of that process. When they're younger, that concrete kind of passive receiving of learning is really important. But at this age group, it's massively important for them to begin to take ownership of their faith and learn how to discuss it with one another. So get that discussion rolling, ask open-ended questions, try not to ask yes or no things, and ask the group to respond. If a kid says something, listen to what they say, think about how you might be able to draw a question that gets other kids to respond and ask it. I put some suggestions in the discussion table for you, things like asking, do the rest of you agree or disagree with that? Or, asking a specific kid if that is a similar experience that they've had. Kids generally, when they start to see what you're looking for, will pick up on discussion formats and they'll begin to feel more comfortable talking. It's our goal to begin to teach them this format and get it to be a normal part of how we do CSM junior high. So again, I'll teach more on this in the coming weeks and months as we work together as a group. But I hope today that gives you just a little bit of a more comfortable stance from where to start as far as how to discipline or how to guide our kids into more appropriate behaviors. and also how to get a discussion rolling. Again, the aim of both of those things is just to make our kids grow in their responsibility and in their respect for one another, and it builds confidence. It really helps our kids to see you guys as guides and as advocates for them, and to see one another as a great big help in their journey toward Christ. So that's it from me. We'll talk more. We've got so much to learn, but we've got time. We'll figure it out together. Hope you guys have a great weekend, and we'll see you on Sunday.